Welcome to another episode of What's Up, Prof? Hi, Walter.
Good day, Martin.
We're almost at the end of the year,
I'm very pleased to hear it.
but we're heading towards 2024.
That's going to be exciting. 25 will be even more exciting.
I think we're heading for very interesting times, and we've got an interesting topic again, because people just don't seem
To get it.
No. So
They don't get it.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, it is a privilege to work for you, and we thank you that we can be here. And we ask that you please lead through this discussion, that the truth can come to the fore, and that you will guide our minds with the Holy Spirit and show us what you want us to give to the people. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So the title is the CBDC the mark of the beast? That's the central bank digital currency. There are so many people that believe that. Now, the mark of the beast has to do with worship, doesn't it?
That does. Let me just say that how many times have we had to do the mark of the beast
We've
since
done
we
it
began?
ad nausea, and still people don't want to accept it. They all say it is the central bank digital currency, the barcode, you name it, whatever it is.
The vaccine was the mark of the beast at one stage. Everything, but they never come to the true mark.
Well, the only one who can define the mark of the beast is the beast.
Yeah.
And the beast has pertinently said what it is. We'll come to that as we go along. Now, Martin, prophecy is history written in advance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does the devil have a counterfeit prophecy?
Yes.
It's called planning.
Yeah.
It's called planning. It's writing a script and then sticking to the script and calling it prophecy.
And then if anybody shows it out, that's conspiracy.
Oh, that's a conspiracy. Are you a conspiracy theorist, Martin?
I believe, according to their definition, yes.
But the whole Bible is a conspiracy theory.
That's
If
true.
you read the book of Daniel, that's the greatest conspiracy ever written.
That's a problem. There is a conspiracy going on.
And you know what? The conspiracy was uncovered. The Reformation took away the veil and showed exactly who's behind the conspiracy.
Yeah.
And they've pulled the wool over everybody's eyes again and put the veil back.
Yeah, true.
Plus wool over the eyes so that they never will see again.
Yeah.
So the world is really without an excuse. Now, Martin, let's look at the devil's history written in advance. This is the cover of The Economist of 2012. Now, they have this propensity to show their planning for the next years, etc. And they do it quite well. They're like the Simpsons.
Very accurate predictions.
Yes, and of course The Economist comes out under the flag of the Rothschilds, who happen to be the Vatican bankers. In case people don't know what it is, they can look it up in the Catholic Encyclopedia. They are the Rothschilds, the Red Shields.
Looking after the money.
That's what the Roman army used to wear and go to war with. Now, we don't want to go into any great detail with this cover and talk all about all the intricacies about it. But something is very fascinating, Martin. If you look at the top here, you see a Hamas terrorist over there with a hang glider. Is that correct, Martin?
That's correct.
And then there is a big boom in the middle here. And there is Israel also with a hang glider. Tell us what happened there, Martin.
Well,
2012.
Yeah. Didn't we say that we think this was planned in any case?
Well, we said that in a previous one, but if you say something like that, you get into trouble these days, don't you?
No. You can even be labeled anti-Semitic if you want to say it.
And if you are against Zionism, which is basically just a political ideology, then you are also labeled an anti-Semitic these days. But let's put it quite categorically, we are not anti-anyone.
No.
Neither are we anti-Semitic, nor are we anti-Islamists. We're anti-nobody, but we're pro-truth. And if those organizations do not have the truth, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, then unfortunately we have to show that it's not biblical.
True.
So Martin, here in 2012, in this picture, they show a conflict between Israel and Hamas, and they're using hang gliders. Did it happen?
Yes. Motorized ones.
Hey?
They used motorized
Ones. Isn't that amazing? And then you have all kinds of interesting pictures that we're not going to go into, but it looks like the devil is very busy, and that the political systems are very busy. And of course, here we have climate change.
Of course.
And the one who's orchestrating everything is the devil. Well, they got that right.
They got that right.
But who does the devil give his power to and great authority?
To image of the beast.
Okay. And in the meantime, you have Simon Cowell over here keeping people occupied with theater and activity so that they don't really see what's going on behind his back.
Yeah.
Which is all this nonsense over here. We have all the conflicts with, Kim Jong-un and Putin and everybody here in a pool of fire. And you have economic factors. And then you have the hackers over here.
Like cyber attacks.
And cyber attacks. And they're facing in the right direction.
Yeah.
They're looking at what's happening in the world, right? You have this train, and on this train you have the banking system, the central banking system, and there you have the devil pushing it along. They've got that right.
Yeah.
They've got that right, absolutely. And we don't want to go into all the details, but it looks like gluttony for oil is a major problem. And the biggest problem is the United States of America when it comes to being a glutton for fossil fuels. So climate change is very important. We need conflicts. We will predict there will be a major conflict between Israel and Hamas, and the central bankers will be very active, and greed is at the center of it all. And who uses these words continuously, that the world is greedy, that we should protect ourselves against climate change, that these evil axes must come to an end, that financial currencies should be coordinated? Who is the one propagating this behind the scenes all the time?
Of course. It is the beast.
The beast.
Yes.
Martin, you're a conspiracy theorist. So the dragon is giving his power unto the beast.
Yes.
And create enough turmoil that the kings of the world will eventually say, let's give our power unto the beast.
Yeah. Wander after him.
And let's implement his mark. The mark of my ecclesiastical power is that I have transferred the solemnity of the Sabbath to Sunday.
Yeah.
So if you keep my day, then you are keeping my law and accepting my authority, and you are actually worshipping me.
That's it.
But if you keep God's law and you keep his Sabbath, then you acknowledge his authority and worship him.
That's it too.
And if you want to do that, I'll use the central bank digital currency to cut your existence short.
So, to make it plain, it's a tool of the beast.
Aha, but it's not the mark of the beast. Well, it's a very interesting scenario. People can study this for weeks on end and put all the intricacies together. But I think we've given basically the gist of what's going on here. These things are planned.
Of course.
And this whole issue about all of this molten lava and the heat that's going around and reducing the temperature or limiting it to 1.5 degrees is all a load of nonsense.
Yes. Yes. It is smoke being blown.
Yes. Can you divorce anything that we've talked about from worship?
No. All this comes back to worship. That's why Satan is standing there. Because it will come back to worship.
Yes. And they're trying to depict him as evil, but actually they worship him.
Yeah.
That's why they knight these people that blatantly worship Satan. Well, the Chinese Communist Party is rewriting the Bible. The 10-year project to rewrite the Bible, Quran, and other sacred texts is all part of Xi Jinping's quest to make the faithful serve the party rather than God. What kind of a philosophy is that?
Well, that falls in at King of the South, secularism and atheism.
Will it have to go?
Yes, it has to come under the.
So the King of the North, which is the papacy, will have to supersede this, right? Yeah. So somehow this system will have to begin to wobble. And the interesting thing is, can they rewrite the Bible and the Quran?
They can rewrite it, but it won't mean anything.
It won't mean anything. And especially the Bible, which is the inspired word of God, you can't rewrite that unless you want to be part of the son of perdition. So is this maybe planned as well?
Yeah.
Do you think the papacy will mind if the Bible is rewritten?
No. Because they've done it already.
Oh, right, they will rejoice, right? Yeah. So is this an ally to them sitting at the same table, or is it an enemy?
It helps them a lot.
In a secret 2018 negotiation, the Vatican agreed to allow the Chinese Communist Party to select Catholic bishops in China, supposedly in exchange for vague reassurances of safety for some Catholic congregations, which were immediately abrogated. Is there a tension between religion and China?
Yeah, there is a big tension, but there's also cooperation.
Okay, now tell me, Martin, Islam that adheres to the Quran, is it part of the King of the South or King of the North?
King of the North.
Yes, because it's part of Babylon, isn't it? It's part of Babylon. But who's the kingpin in Babylon?
The papacy.
The papacy. So if the papacy is the kingpin and the whole book of Revelation is dedicated to its machinations, then it goes to show that the worship must be diverted towards him, right?
That's it.
Do we see this in climate change activities?
Oh, definitely.
Do we see this in politics?
Politics, everything is starting to pull together to that one point.
Okay. Now, Tibetan Buddhists are attempting to stand up to the CCP coercion, but Beijing counters that even Pope Francis, leader of the mighty Catholic Church, accepts their authority over church leadership. Do you think that's true? Or is that eyewash?
That's all part of the plan.
Part of the game to make it seem as if there is a conflict of interests. Martin, the Bible predicts that Protestant America will give its power unto the beast.
Yes.
Is that a religious alliance?
Yes.
Is Protestant America a Christian organization if they call themselves Protestant America?
Yes, supposedly, yes.
Supposedly church and state must be separated. But if this is going to happen, church and state must come together again, right? Mm-hmm. This is all part of the biblical, historic, continuous script, which is prophecy, real prophecy.
Yeah.
So we must make sure that we see these things happening. More young Americans doomsday prepping for 2024 election. System not as stable as we assumed. Does the world realize that something's going down?
Yes, and they are abuzz because they had some not so nice wake-up call with the pandemic, the previous years.
Younger Americans appear to be the ones preparing the most for a disaster scenario ahead of 2024, with everything from global pandemics to upcoming presidential election on their minds. A poll from Finder.com earlier this year found that 39% of American millennials and 40% of Gen Zers reported spending money on disaster prepping in the last 12 months. By contrast, only 29% of Americans in general spent money on emergency preparedness. In my work, I see younger people worried about a repeat of a COVID-type event, the types of disruption it can bring to daily life. Southern Illinois University anthropology professor Chad Huddleston told Fox News Digital, "The coronavirus pandemic seems to have opened up a new market for preparedness industry. What they're really worried about is political upheaval as well, maybe even a civil war."
That's it. So you've got the candidates, but it's possible that there can be a very serious clash in this election.
Well, they're working very hard to achieve it. So, Martin, everything seems to be ready for a big explosion. And Iran has just warned, as well as Turkey, that they've had enough. And it's interesting how they hype this religious aspect. It's so amazing to me. I read that one of the legislators in Turkey's parliament just criticized Israel and said that God would judge them for what they were doing. And instantly, Martin, he got a heart attack and dropped down in the assembly. They gave him CPR and rushed him away. But the idea is, you are doing this, and they're playing this both sides.
Yeah.
There's another university in the United States that just lost a basketball game by 108 to something like 6 or something like that. A really massive walkover. And the LGBT crowd said, it's because of your Christian legislation.
So you see,
Because you are saying, that God instituted a man and a woman. That's why you lost that game like that. Isn't that ridiculous?
It's exactly, but like you said, it's picking up that, you see, you wanted to do this, and it's both ways.
You talk against Israel, they drop down with a heart attack. Instant judgment from God. You lose a basketball game, instant judgment from God. They're using the Hegelian dialectic and rubbing these two philosophies against each other until they explode.
And I think we're not far from explosion.
Right. And in the meantime, we're talking about no buying, no selling, and a 666. And we don't realize that it's all about worship.
Yes.
All right. Well, Martin, how does Robert Kennedy fit into the fray?
Yes, because he's a presidential candidate for the Democrats. But what is his philosophy, or what is his belief?
Now, it's interesting. He doesn't have much of a chance of winning. But his philosophy attracts some people. He is sort of a conservative on the one side and liberal on the other side. He's got a foot in both camps, right?
That's true, because a lot of the conservative right actually likes what he, especially through COVID.
Yeah.
They were very fond of what he had to say.
Correct. Now, some are saying that if he stays in the run as it is now, he can put a dent into the Democrats' polling success. And that would favor the Trump camp. So some say he should actually step down. But it's interesting that he is staying there.
Yeah, and he's standing as an independent, so that will really give the Democrats.
Yes, if he can garner a number of the votes, that will weaken the overall vote for the Democrats. That would help the swing to the right.
You talk about, so I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, and we share the same birthday, so that's a synchronicity. And so I heard you talk about that Carl Jung helped you awaken spiritually or kind of reconnect spiritually. Can you talk a little bit about that?
First of all, I knew that I needed to have a spiritual realignment, and the 12 steps are built to induce a spiritual awakening of one kind or another. Very personalized. There's no cosmology. There's no religion. But there's basically they encourage you to they make the easier path at finding your own spiritual path, your own relationship with the God of whatever your understanding is.
You talk about surrender. I never understood what that meant until I read Carl Jung and started to experience my unconscious. And he talks about that what we're aware of is just the tip of the iceberg of who we really are, and that most of who we are is unconscious, and that to become enlightened isn't to learn something new, but is to make the darkness conscious.
I was raised in a very, very deeply religious setting. Whenever he was home, he would read us, we'd all get in the bed and he'd read us the Bible stories. I went to Catholic schools, I went to Jesuit schools, I went to the nuns, and I went to a Quaker school at one point.
Well, Martin, that just gives you an idea of the spirituality and where it comes from, right?
Yes, I think we can say that we're not denigrating the man.
No.
It's just an observation to see where
he comes from. All right? So he was raised Catholic. He was raised in Jesuit schools. He even went to the Quakers. That is a kind of holy flesh movement almost, with outpourings of and manifestations of the Holy Spirit, in inverted commas. And this is the spirituality that they're talking about, and they use Carl Jung.
Mm-hmm. I know you've had previous lectures on Carl Jung.
Yes, Carl Jung received his revelations under the influence of drugs, and he spoke to spirit entities. And this is where their spirituality comes from. Now, to make this an issue of study and to introduce that into your spiritual life is exactly the same as the exercises of Loyola.
Yes, the spiritual formation exercise.
The spiritual formation. And those are ritualistic activities that you perform, often enhancing them with substances. That's why many religious systems actually can't function without marijuana, for example, because they need to open up a channel to a higher consciousness, which is nothing less than demon possession, by the way, if we talk straight talk here. God doesn't want that.
No.
If you want a relationship with someone, do you have to take drugs in order to achieve it?
No, unfortunately, that's the main thing that the world tells you. But if God wants you to, not if, but God wants you to have a clear mind when you decide for Him or against Him.
You want to have a personal relationship. You want to walk with God. You don't want to sit in a circle smoking hashish in order to have a relationship, because then you will have a relationship with demons. So that's pretty straight talk, but that's the way it is. Bottom line, does spirituality come into politics in a major way, no matter which side of the spectrum you're sitting on?
Definitely. It's unmistakable.
Now, some states like France say, no, church and state must be totally separate. This comes from the French Revolution, of course.
Yeah, their religion is almost secularism.
Right. Now, in the United States of America, this ideology of the French Revolution was rigorously enforced in the separation of church and state. Are there voices that saying this has to go?
Yeah.
Now, France is still the hardcore, right? Now, it's interesting that Francis Emmanuel Macron got buffeted from all sides in a row over secularism. Emmanuel Macron has been accused of betraying the French Republic after he took part in a Jewish ceremony inside his official residence. In a country where the separation of religion is itself a religion, the lighting of a Hanukkah candle was immediately denounced by politicians of both right and left, because he said now he's taking part in a religious experience, and that's not in line with separation of church and state. Now, he's Jesuit trained, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you can't get away from it.
No.
Kennedy, was he Jesuit trained?
Yeah.
Yes, you can't get away from it. If you go to Donald Trump's side, are they Jesuit trained?
Yes.
Yes. On the other side, are they Jesuit trained?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. So is the beast involved?
Of course.
Yes, the beast is involved. The beast from the bottomless pit. Let's call it by its name. And the leader is the
Pope.
son of perdition.
Yeah.
Martin, why would he do this? Is it to start scratching at the surface?
For sure. Why is he visiting the Pope? Why is he doing all of these religious affiliations?
All right. Now, if they should give that up and give their power unto the beast, isn't that an end of the separation of church and state?
Yep.
Are they going to do it?
Yes.
Aren't 10 kings going to give their power unto the beast?
Well,
And are the 10 kings the powers of Europe and their affiliates as they have been expanding, like the United States and every other of those countries?
yeah, and actually, as we've shown, most of them have already done it.
Okay. Warning for Biden admin as Europe swings to the right and unfettered migration threatens Western values. Now, the problem with the migration is twofold. Number one, it is bringing in people that will become dependent on the state largely,
Yeah.
particularly initially. But the other problem is ideological.
Yes.
Now, a lot of the riots that are taking place are, for example, pro-Hamas.
Correct.
So do we bring in a religious element there again?
For sure. I mean, that's a very good strategy.
All right. And then the other side says if you say anything against Israel, you drop dead or you have to resign from your university positions. And you have a big hoo-ha. Is there a clash between two ideologies
Oh,
here?
yes, that Hegelian dialectic is working.
All right. So can you divorce religion from the migration issue?
No.
No. So some of these people that are moving to the right in Europe, are they also criticizing the Quran?
Yes.
Now in Denmark, they were burning the Quran and they've just brought out a law prohibiting that. So is religion in the fray?
It's everywhere. It's not disconnected from anything, whether it be the political, the immigration, the climate change.
It's all
Religion
connected.
is everywhere.
Okay. Now, the religious systems uniting, that would be Babylon, right?
Yeah,
Under the leadership of the papacy.
that's it.
That is the king of the north. Is there a conflict between the king of the north and secularism?
Yes,
Is there a conflict between the king of the north and the south then?
that's it.
Correct,
We see it.
right? So, firebrand politician Geert Wilders' surprising late November election victory in the Netherlands has prompted a political sea change and could alter the European political landscape. Wilders, the so-called Dutch Donald Trump, seeks to cobble together a coalition to govern the northern European country of nearly 18 million people. There have been some significant telltale signs that parts of Europe are shifting to a more conservative political culture. And they mention Italy and Spain is moving in that direction. Sweden is moving in that direction. There seems to be a trend.
Yes, definitely. A religious trend, if you can say it like that.
Yes, and at the same time, they're trying to have peace between moderate Islam and Western culture, and Greece is very interesting in that aspect. So there are talks between Turkey and Greece to cool down the sentiments. After all, they're NATO countries.
Yeah.
So very interesting. But the bottom line is there's a shift to the right.
Yeah.
And a shift to the right in thinking means giving power unto the beast.
That's what, exactly. Mm-hmm.
That's what it means, right?
That's what it means.
All right, Martin. So we saw Simon Cowell there in that picture from The Economist. And behind him was what's happening on the world stage. And he was keeping people entertained, right?
Yeah.
On the one side. So do you think the entertainment world will play a great part in swinging the sentiment?
Yeah, we know it. It is. It's Jesuit theatre, so.
Do the celebrities still have clout?
Yes, actually, quite a lot.
What about this young Swift lady and her romance with an American football star? Is that something that everybody in the world is oogling at?
For sure.
And billions are flowing into coffers?
Yeah.
It's amazing what the entertainment world can do, right?
Well, we've shown numerous citations that it's probably one of the strongest tools that Satan can use.
So if you have a rush of entertainment world figures rushing to the Pope, will that also change sentiments?
Of course, they have to get their orders from somewhere.
Okay, let's have a look.
During his usual Wednesday general audience, the Pope had an unexpected visit, one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's a great honor to meet you. I wanted to come here and say thank you very much for protecting Denise. And we must communicate the importance not only about climate change, but about how many people die every year because of pollution. 7 million. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so good to meet you. This is my wife.
Good morning, Holy Father.
My daughters. Three.
Mary.
Thank you. And my brother Frank.
Good morning, Scarlett. Good morning, Sistine.
And my brother Frank. Holy Father. Well, thank you very much taking time of your busy day.
Ogni vostri film.
We grew up with your films.
Wow.
Ready? We box. Oh, that's so, yeah, ready. Well, it's so great. I appreciate it so much. And
for 11 years, this is something I've tried to do. And, you have to go through all these different ways. And we did it a different way. And the next thing I knew, I was in Rome.
Yeah.
And my family. I wanted to say thank you for everything.
That's very important.
Not as important as you. I don't know what any of it means, but I know that I feel better.
Wow.
Because I feel like somebody up there likes me. That's the best way I can put it.
Well,
Martin, are the hero worshipping the Pope?
Yeah.
God is smiling at them because they're going to the Pope. How do they treat him? What do they say to him?
That he's amazing, very important.
Wonderful. Without him, the world would not be able to exist. The Bible calls him the son of perdition, whom the Lord will destroy with the brightness of his coming. That's pretty serious talk.
That is pretty serious talk, and he's the head of the beast system.
And
which
the
is-
dragon gives him his power.
The dragon sits behind it.
Okay. Pope Francis calls for end to fossil fuels at COP28 in Dubai. The Pope threw his weight behind calls for an end to fossil fuels in a message delivered here at COP28. Now, they were arguing this way and that way. Then they brought out a resolution which was not very strong on fossil fuels. After all, it's taking place in Dubai. So oil is a very important issue. And the great glutton, the United States, is guzzling all the oil, not the other nations, not China, who is importing all of our coal here out of South Africa and burning it like crazy, even though it's the greatest polluter of them all. It's the United States that's the glutton and must force the world to accept one thing or another, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, of course, they've just brought out their final resolution, and everybody's clapping hands, that there must be a serious addressing of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And the year that they mention is 2025. I find that interesting because Alice A. Bailey says that's the time when there will be a manifestation of the hierarchy. In other words, Satan and his demons will manifest themselves.
Yeah. According to Alice A. Bailey.
Well, according to The Economist too, who was orchestrating the climate change little computer there.
All the things.
The devil.
Little dragon.
But he'll come as an angel of light, right?
Yeah, he won't look like that.
No, 2024, the elections will take place, 2025, and then you had that massive document of over 900 pages of the political system, what the landscape will look like.
Project 2025.
Project 2025. Is Sunday legislation in that?
Very much. Not even in uncertain terms. It's very well put out in there.
Blatant.
It says that
it'll default to Sunday.
Default to Sunday.
It'll default to Sunday. Whose mark is that?
The beast.
The beast. So, Martin, the CBDC, the 666 digital system, is that the mark of the beast?
No, it's a tool to implement the mark of the beast.
Okay, because only the beast can tell us what its mark is. Yeah. And as we have said, it has plainly said that their authority counts above the Bible, and the proof is moving the Sabbath to the Sunday.
That's it.
Therefore, by acknowledging their authority, you are worshipping the beast. It's an issue of worship.
Yeah.
And if they put the economic squeeze on you, and you capitulate, then you receive the mark on the hand.
Or in the forehead.
Well, if you believe that they are right, you have it in the forehead.
Yeah.
But if you resist it, will you have turmoil?
Oh, for sure.
Will there be a time of trouble?
Such as never was.
What is the promise of God for that time?
That He will protect those that keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
It's very plain in the Bible. It's about the commandments of God. Here are those that keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. Here are those that keep the commandments of God and have the right to the tree of life. No matter how Rome has tried to change those verses and make them read something else, that's what they say.
That's it.
Okay. So the man behind the scene, the one who without the world just cannot live, is the beast power, the papacy. Now, Martin, we've consistently said that the whole climate issue is a load of nonsense. Given the minuscule amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, and what one little volcanic eruption can do to CO2, which far outweighs anything that's happening in the world. By the way, are there numerous eruptions currently? Are there numerous earthquakes currently?
Yes.
Is that one of the signs of the last days?
Signs of the last days. The earth is reeling against all of this.
All right. And what does real science say and not science, falsely so called? Real science says, Martin, it's not climate change that's causing heat waves this summer, but no one wants to explain why. In the 1930s, the government's heat wave index was 4 times higher. Interesting, right? Government researchers have been tracking heat waves for more than 100 years. According to data from the US Climate Change Science Program, which is made available by the Environmental Protection Agency, the annual heat wave index for the contiguous 48 states was substantially higher in the 1930s than at any point in recent years. In some years in the 1930s, it was 4 times greater or even more. Martin, they are talking nonsense.
Yeah, because at the same time you'll hear now, it's record heat waves and all of that. And then you go and look at the data.
And here you have the graphs and you have the years and you see where the peaks really were. And this is an agenda.
And it's part, we've mentioned this many times before, There is some strange occurrences in weather, but I think a lot of it's planned and manipulated.
Well, if they can put a hang glider there and show what's going to happen more than a decade later, then they can use their facilities to change the climate.
That's it. And once again, who's standing on that picture?
The devil.
He's controlling all of
And
this.
he has been studying this for decades, and he can sweep away the harvest as he did in the days of Job, and we've said it ad nausea, and we're not going to have to repeat it too often again, but lies are lies.
That's it.
And the Bible says, surely we have inherited lies. And the devil was a liar from the beginning, and he has given that power unto the beast, who has been lying to us from the beginning, saying that salvation runs through the system rather than through Christ.
True.
Salvation runs through their tradition rather than the word. And when that was exposed, they introduced the Counter-Reformation, which was based on lies, and people are swallowing the lies of a false Messiah that is going to come, and an antichrist that's going to be in a temple of stone when we're building a spiritual temple. The whole system is based on lies. He was a liar, and his advocates are liars.
Yes, they are from their father, the devil, who is a liar from the beginning.
All right, so Martin, when the central bank digital currency comes into effect, that's not the mark of the beast.
No.
It's got nothing to do with the actual worship. It's just a tool to implement it,
Yes,
to enforce it.
To get you to do what they want.
Now let's get these gentlemen to tell us what their plans are.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable.
And we will adhere to the law. That is what this platform will do. So if somebody says does something illegal, then they will be suspended. If they do not do something illegal, then we will try our best to avoid any kind of permanent bans unless someone does something fundamentally illegal.
Elon, I don't know. We don't.
We're just trying to stay true to the Constitution of the United States in America and the laws of the country as decided by the citizens.
Net zero. Who would have thought that they would impose fines if you didn't comply? So, just like ULEZ in the latest development, we could be fined and or criminalised if we don't go along with the upgrades that they're forcing us, mainly at our own expense, to make. So, say, for example, you fall foul of regulations to reduce your energy consumption, you could face up to a year in prison and fines of up to £15,000. Or, if you fail to submit the correct information of what you're using, you could also be prosecuted for provision of false information about energy efficiency or for the obstruction of an enforcement authority.
All right, these are the threatenings and the rumblings of the system. Does this mean they're going to force you to do something?
Yes, so for instance, the free speech king, Elon Musk, also said that they will have to, are they doing censorship according to the laws of the land?
So once the law of the land changes, then they will censor accordingly.
Accordingly. And so, like the other guy in the beginning said, the digital currency is there to coerce you or to force you. They can decide, can you use your money on certain things or not? And then, like we've also seen before, if you don't adhere, if your carbon footprint are too big, they can switch off your money.
Does Sunday become part of the carbon footprint?
That's the thing. It is already in the Laudato Si and in the new one that the Pope...
So I suggest you start practicing so that you no longer breathe on Sundays.
Yeah.
So that you don't have a carbon footprint.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous they are. By the way, this kind of censorship and coercion, who's the master of it all? Who's been practicing that for millennia?
No, the papacy.
The papacy, right? Do they censor?
Oh, for sure.
And do they censor truth?
The whole time. The whole Inquisition was brought about because of this.
Of censoring truth. You weren't allowed to quote the Bible. You weren't allowed to possess a Bible. If you did, you were persecuted. So if you believe the Bible today, what then?
Then you're in trouble because you're a fundamentalist.
Then you're a fundamentalist. I'm so proud I believe the Bible. I'm so proud that they will call me a fundamentalist because they are contrary to every tenet of the word.
Absolutely.
TikTok pledges $1 million at COP28 to fight climate change misinformation. As global audiences on TikTok engage in climate conversations, the platform acknowledges a rising risk of misinformation. During COP28 at Expo City Dubai, Ian Gill, global head of sustainability at TikTok, shared insights about the platform's response to the challenge. TikTok has introduced a 1 million initiative dedicated to addressing climate misinformation, collaborating with Verified for Climate, a joint program of the United Nations, and Purpose. So are they pro-climate change agendas or anti?
Definitely pro.
Pro, and they're putting money on the table in order to make sure there's no misinformation.
So if we take, for an example, what happened during the pandemic, this opposition voice was totally silenced.
Yes.
So what will happen, because the narrative of the United Nations with whom they are working is definitely not the one that we've shown earlier, that science actually shows there's nothing.
So if you show that graph of the 1930s, would that be classified as misinformation?
Definitely.
Now, isn't that amazing? That somebody can take historic facts and sweep them under the table.
Yeah.
Now, who's the expert in that? Isn't it Rome as well?
Exactly.
Now, Martin, if you say something long enough, people will become convinced that it's actually the truth, right? You repeat a lie over and over, eventually it becomes truth in the minds of people.
In the minds, yes.
So how many people actually believe that this digital currency and 666 is associated with the mark of the beast?
Well, millions.
All right, let's have a look at some of the role players and see what they say.
Like one day in the future, everything will be traceable.
That's right. And that's, this is where being raised an Episcopalian. In the book of Revelations, as a Christian, you're going to read it. This is where I get scared because it's too similar to the mark of the beast. It's too similar to exactly what it says. You won't be able to trade. You won't be able to do anything unless you have the mark, unless you bear the mark. So
what is that in that term? How is that described? How is the mark of the beast described in the Bible? We should read it because I think you're onto something.
The mark of the beast. It's like you can't do anything. You can't sell. I mean, that's that. Like if you remove the ability to trade currency in a private way, you are now controlled. You are now monitored.
It also causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. Charagma, translated as mark of the beast in Revelation 13:16, can also mean any mark engraved, imprinted, or branded, stamped money, document, or coin. The mark of the beast is interpreted differently across the four main views of Christian eschatology.
Now, did you notice the fundamental flaw in their argument?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can buy or sell unless they have the mark.
Yes.
That's scripture.
Exactly.
So buying and selling cannot be the mark.
Yes, because you can only not buy and sell if you take the mark.
So the mark is nothing to do with the buying and selling. It's only a means to implement the mark.
Yes.
So they are equating the buying and selling the digital currency with the mark. No, because that goes into effect if you refuse to receive the mark.
Yes. So, and we must remember, this Joe Rogan, and we're going to show the other ones as well, got huge audiences of millions of people watching.
So they're very influential. So let's have a look at the others, movers and shakers, like Glenn Beck, for example.
Nobody knows the time, we're all told. But I mean, if you're a Christian and you haven't at least thought that maybe there's a lot of prophecy being fulfilled here, maybe this is the time. I talked to Pat earlier this morning and he said, I always thought it would be more obvious if this is the time, the mark of the beast. Is that CBDC? I don't know. What is it? It could be anything. And he said, I always thought it would be more clear, but it's not. Maybe it becomes more clear, but you can tell the difference between good and evil. Most people can still do that, although many, listen to hour one of this broadcast, many cannot.
Same mistake, right?
Same mistakes. You see, they cannot, and maybe they're ignorant because I'm sure that a lot of people are giving the truth to them.
I wish somebody would give them the great controversy.
Well, I think Glenn has acknowledged that he's received over 500 copies of it over the past years.
Well, I wish you would read it.
I wish you would read it. Then you will put the puzzle together.
The puzzle is very distinct. It's an issue of worship. And if it's an issue of worship, then it's also an issue of obedience to the requirements of God.
Yes.
As opposed to the requirements of the beast. And the beast has to be in rebellion against God.
Exactly. And the thing is that, some of these people, like Glenn just said, everybody must start realizing
there's something going on.
There's something going on. And a lot of the things that they try and put together, it makes sense. But they must just get the final part, the cherry on the top, and then everything will make sense. And they can be very strong voices for the truth.
Now, Alex Jones has been in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting that it gets back onto X when he was banned originally, as long as he adheres to the rules and the laws of the state, right?
Yeah.
So let's listen to that.
And you can take care of your family and you're independent. They have to destroy all that because the rest of the world aspires to that. Instead, they want 15-minute cities, central bank digital currencies. They want all of these systems that track and trace everything you do in the social credit scores. And you ask again, why would you do that? Because it's all about breaking our will. They don't want people to aspire to open, free societies. Yeah, there's a lot of waste, there's decadence, there's issues, but there's freedom. They want to train us to live on carbon rationing, food rationing, a very dystopic world. You'll own nothing, you'll have nothing, and you'll be happy. Now, these are quotes.
I have to say, I bet there are I don't know how long into this we are. Like, I'm listening to this, and even myself, I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm nodding along to Alex Jones and being like, you're absolutely right. Like, where are you wrong?
You have to worship the beast that can be seen by all on earth at the same time. It describes these big holograms you've got to watch and worship. And it tells you what to do. And it tells you how to live. And it says men become women and women become men and children are set upon their parents. And there's nothing but wickedness being invented. And it describes everything that's now happening and says when they roll this out, you've got to worship this world government. You've got to worship this system and do exactly what it says, or it doesn't let you buy and sell. And so whether people believe in the Bible or not, believe in Revelation or not, it is now manifesting.
I don't see a lie in that. I don't think I am a Christian, but I don't think you need to be one to arrive at exactly the same conclusion.
They talk about the beast. They talk about the worship of the beast. But they're concentrating on the control.
Yes.
Which is just a method.
It's just a method. It's just part of the other side. There's two sides that's actually controlling this whole thing.
Yes.
Behind, the papacy sits behind it. But both sides, the globalists, as they call them, and the other ones that seem to be the heroes are all part of this whole thing.
And they miss the central point, which is worship. And the Bible is very clear. Whom you obey, that's the one who you are actually paying homage to. That's worshiping. So Martin, if I could only put it together.
But isn't it amazing that in all these huge talk shows or podcasts, they're talking about the same thing? Everywhere, even in the news, they're talking about this. So definitely we are in a place in history we have not been before.
Correct. So just because we said these people should all get the great controversy, if they don't want to read it, can we read a portion for them?
Let's read it for them.
The mark of the beast. When Sunday observance shall be enforced by law, will it be done under the auspices of religion and climate change?
Oh, for sure, definitely.
And the world shall be enlightened concerning the obligation of the true Sabbath. Then whoever shall transgress the command of God to obey a precept which has no higher authority than that of Rome will thereby honor popery above God. He is paying homage to Rome and the power which enforces the institution ordained by Rome. He is worshipping the beast and his image. As men then reject the institution which God has declared to be the sign of his authority, and honor in its stead that which Rome has chosen as a token of her supremacy, they will thereby accept the sign of allegiance to Rome, the mark of the beast. And it is not until the issue is thus plainly set before the people, and they are brought to choose between the commandments of God and the commandments of men, that those who continue in transgression will receive the mark of the beast. They don't know yet.
No.
So they haven't received the mark of the beast.
No.
But if it's plain and they begin to understand it, and they still decide for the beast, then they receive the mark of the beast.
So what does this tell us? There's still time.
There's still time. We must still preach. We must preach louder.
Yeah, and we must get to these people and try and show them the truth.
All right, we continue. Popery is just what prophecy declared that she should be, the apostasy of the latter times. Quoting 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 and 4, it is a part of her policy to assume the character which best accomplishes her purposes. But beneath the variable appearance of the chameleon, she conceals the invariable venom of the serpent. We are not bound to keep faith and promises to heretics, she declares. Shall this power, whose record for 1,000 years is written in the blood of the saints, be now acknowledged as part of the Church of Christ? It's a very good question.
This is what we are waiting for because we see it.
The Antichrist. They've written Jesus Christ out of the plan of salvation.
Yeah.
They've put treasuries of merit and other such nonsense in the place thereof. Martin, this is the issue. And I wish people would understand it, but they don't.
That's true. And you see, the thing is, Pope Francis is playing a very good role as a chameleon.
He's a very good chameleon. And Catholicism has not lost one iota of its animosity against true Protestantism.
That's it. So maybe we must see how traditional Catholics feel about this, because underneath the chameleon that he portrays to the outside world, this is the true way that I'm sure the Pope feels as well.
It's a power from the bottomless pit. Well, here's the church militant. Let's listen to what they have to say.
The Catholic Church, the human dimension, has been overrun by the Protestant heresy. When we talk about the church and nice, that's actually what we're talking about, that large group of Catholics who have joined themselves to the lie that is Protestantism. Protestantism is a lie because it is a heresy. We've been hitting this theme all week. And heresies, like schisms, lead to hell for the unrepentant. And here's the rub. Every single last one of those beliefs they get from Catholicism, period. They didn't come up with those on their own. They belong to us. We're happy to share them. Just take them all. When Martin Luther and his heretical cohort were walking out of the church, they took a few things with them, those beliefs among them. And then over the centuries, Luther's followers have taken those Catholic treasures and distorted them almost beyond recognition. In the area of theology, for example, Protestants don't have a clue about sacred scripture, although they all dance around like they do. They interpret it for themselves and they fill in the blanks as they go along, essentially making it up. What it creates is an environment where instead of being instructed by Scripture, you instruct it. Protestants impose their personal beliefs on the texts, and they twist them to mean whatever they like the most. They're not a church. They're normally nothing more than a nonprofit organization that meets once or twice a week and occasionally gets something correct in Scripture, but most of the time makes a shipwreck of the sacred texts because they have denied the authority of the Catholic Church, who gave the world the Bible. It's our book. You don't take it and then get to tell us what it means. And then, having denied the authority of the Church to correctly interpret it, even though, again, the Church produced it, then they claim a right which they do not possess, the ability to interpret Scripture. It denies the efficacy of the sacraments, most especially the real presence of Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. It twists and distorts sacred Scripture in the egotistical air of telling congregations what they want to hear. We're not essentially all the same, meaning in essence. They deny the church, and he who denies the church denies Christ himself. Not a single book of the Bible, for example, itself claims to be inspired. Not one. Yet Protestants go on and on about the Bible being inspired. Well, since the Bible itself doesn't even claim that, then why do they believe it?
Martin, I thought the Bible was God-breathed.
Yes. Yeah, and I thought it was for correcting and teaching, and, well, obviously it was not inspired according to the traditional Catholic view.
Well, the traditional Catholic view is one that negates the Bible and puts tradition in its place.
So just for in case people were still thinking, oh, but they've changed. They have not changed. We've seen it from the spirit of prophecy
Correct.
as well.
And only they may interpret the Bible. So we have the Antichrist telling us what the Bible actually is saying.
And saying it's not inspired. The church is the inspired portion.
Well, what he's saying is so ridiculous and so distorted. The Roman Catholic Church never gave anybody the Bible. They were only good at removing it.
Yeah.
So,
but you see,
he has not a clue as to what happened in history.
But you see, this is, and if people go and watch the complete video, because this is just a small portion of that, and that is the true Catholic stance.
The true Catholic position. She has never changed. She is a chameleon.
The system.
The system. And the point is, Martin, the essence of the Bible is righteousness by faith. Yeah. And righteousness by faith is part of the third angel's message. And the third angel's message is, do not accept the mark of the beast, because then you are accepting a spurious righteousness which comes through rituals and traditions, rather than the unspotted righteousness of Christ, which is manifested by obedience to all of God's commandments.
And that's how it is.
Of which they keep none, they changed them. Mm-hmm. In the movements now in progress in the United States to secure for the institutions and usages of the church the support of the state, Protestants are following in the steps of Papists. Martin, this was written more than 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's more true now than it has ever been. Nay, more, they are opening the door for the papacy to regain in Protestant America the supremacy which she has lost in the old world. And that which gives greater significance to this movement is the fact that the principal object contemplated is the enforcement of Sunday observance. Is it in Laudato Si?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it in Project 2025?
Yes.
which is supposedly a Protestant
manifest. A custom which originated with Rome and which she claims as a sign of her authority. It is the spirit of the papacy, the spirit of conformity to worldly customs, the veneration for human traditions above the commandments of God that is permeating the Protestant churches and leading them on to do the same work of Sunday exaltation which the papacy has done before them. So, Martin, a lot of the spirituality in the Western world has been lost.
Yeah.
How easy do you think it would be to sway sentiment to bring it back?
Well, according to what's happening in the world now, I don't think it's very difficult. Because everybody is so tired of all the secularism that all the conservative people are tired of all the secularism.
And they're using movies and entertainment to do it, like The Chosen, for example, which is largely influenced by the Church of Latter-day Saints.
That's it.
A Mormon movement where Brigham Young said that the devil told the truth about Godhead. I would not have Mother Eve miss eating the forbidden fruit for anything. Through the gift of sin, man can achieve godhood.
You see.
Those are incredible statements.
And that's the leadership of that church.
Yes. And it was involved through Joseph Smith with the Jesuits, through De Smet. And the whole issue is actually a Jesuit-run organization. And here in Times Square, they are the ones bringing back the story and the sentiment associated with the good old days when people were Christian.
You see, and that's the thing. We have to realize that the end movement will be a religious one.
Yes.
And it will seem very good if you're not awake to what's going on.
So let's see what they are doing in Times Square. How did they coordinate that if they are just a church? How did they get everybody on board to change their boards?
They've got quite some clout.
They have quite some clout. So by using these sentiments, they're taking us back to that good old time.
You see, I was just thinking, yes, there's a plan, and Lucifer sits behind all of this, or Satan. But we must also take this opportunity while the people are in this state of accepting these things, bring the truth to them now.
And let's concentrate on the second coming of Christ, because all the emphasis is on the first coming when he was a babe.
Yes. Let's draw our focus completely the second coming.
All right, that brings us to politics in the United States. James Carville. Christian nationalists like Speaker Mike Johnson are a bigger threat than Al-Qaeda. There you have the one side of the issue. Democratic strategist James Carville sounded the alarm on new Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson, saying he and other Christian nationalists are a bigger threat to the country than Al-Qaeda. Mike Johnson and what he believes is one of the greatest threats we have today in the United States. Carville told Mayer on Friday, I promise you, I know these people. You're talking about Christian nationalists, Mayer said. Absolutely, Carville responded. This is a bigger threat than Al-Qaeda to this country. Now, strange as this may seem, he actually has a point.
He does not know what it means, but yes.
Yes.
There is a point to this.
There is a point, because where can it lead to?
It can lead to what the Bible has predicted.
It can lead to a clash between true Christianity and supposed Christianity under the leadership of the papacy.
That's exactly what we've seen this whole time now. You've got this Christianity, this whole message, everybody is hyped up because we're getting Christian values back, but it's papacy values.
So let's have a listen to what Mike Johnson actually has to say on the issue.
Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That's what I believe in.
Martin, I have no doubt as to the sincerity of the man.
That's why I said earlier, we don't judge the person. But unfortunately, if it carries on like it does, it's a fulfillment of prophecy.
And he's calling it an Exodus experience, an opening of the Red Sea. He aligns himself with Aaron. That means he's going to stand shoulder to shoulder with a Moses. So Martin, who's Moses now? Is he Moses or is he Aaron?
Yeah.
Well, he thought he was Aaron. Maybe he's Moses, but maybe the president will be Moses and he will be Aaron. Who knows? But the fact of the matter, the bottom line is, it's an Exodus experience.
That's it.
What was the Exodus all about? Wasn't it about the law of God?
Mm-hmm.
Let my people go so that they can worship me in the wilderness. And wasn't he going to prove them as to whether they would keep his commandments in the wilderness or not?
That's it.
So it was a question of obedience to God as obedience to the system. Do we have an antitype here?
Oh, for sure. And it's religious. If you can see every tentacle of religion is strung onto this.
All right. Now, if they carry on in this line, they will march towards the mark of the beast.
Yes. Unknowingly, because they'll think it's biblical.
So how important is it that we enlighten them?
That's what we are doing in this show, and we're asking people to help us.
So, Martin, this year has been a tumultuous year.
Once again, yes.
I think it was almost like a midnight cry year. And the events will now not be a great disappointment, but will actually come to culmination.
To the true one that we are longing for.
We are heading for the final showdown with Malta.
Yeah. Yes.
Would you agree?
I agree.
So, Martin, as we close off this year with all of these interesting developments, I think it's appropriate that we read a statement. Joshua is represented as pleading with the angel. Are we engaged in the same work? Are our supplications ascending to God in living faith? Are we opening the door of the heart to Jesus and closing every means of entrance to Satan? Are we daily obtaining a clearer light and greater strength that we may stand in Christ's righteousness? Are we emptying our hearts of all selfishness and cleansing them, preparatory to receiving the latter rain from heaven? Now is the time when we are to confess and forsake our sins, that they may go beforehand to judgment and be blotted out. Now is the time to cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness and the fear of God. It is dangerous to delay this work. Satan is even now seeking by disasters upon sea and land to seal the fate of as many as possible. What is the defense of the people of God at this time? It is a living connection with heaven. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which stands for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never was. Martin, when Michael stands up, then that is the end of the time of probation. And then there will be a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a nation even to that time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. That's the promise we must cling to, right?
And we've got that time to do it right now.
By this we see the importance of having our names written in the book of life. All whose names are registered there will be delivered from Satan's power. Is that another promise?
Promise.
And Christ will command that their filthy garments be removed and that they be clothed with his righteousness. Is this part of the mark of the beast and the warning against it?
I'm 100%.
And they shall be mine, says the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son that serveth him. In the time of trouble, Satan stirs up the wicked, and they encircle the people of God to destroy them. But he does not know that pardon has been written opposite their names in the book of heaven. He does not know that the command has been given, take away the filthy garments from them, clothe them with change of raiment, and set a fair mitre upon their heads. Martin, this is what we must do in the time that we are heading towards.
I believe that as well.
It's important to know what's going on behind the scenes. It's important to know what's happening on the stage of history. But it's more important that we get our hearts right for the final events.
Yes, and to bring the message to as many as possible.
And it's important that we understand the message, because how can you bring a message that you do not understand?
That's true.
How can you explain an issue if you do not understand the issue? How can you point to the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus and the righteousness of Christ if you don't know that that is the issue?
True, true.
So, Martin, this is our closing statement for this year. And who knows what the next one will bring. It will be tumultuous, that we can guarantee. So 2024, I think, will be tumultuous. We can expect that. 2025 will be fascinating if Alice A. Bailey is correct in her plans that were manifested to her by automatic writing. So, Martin, we are living in the very closing stages of Earth's history. And our principal question should be, am I right with God?
And that's it. That's the main.
And if we can answer that in the affirmative, then we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to save humanity from the precipice?
We can only bring the truth to them.
So you have to bring the truth, because you can only conquer error with truth.
That's it.
So we need to preach the truth. We have to introduce a crescendo. What has been a whimper must become a loud cry.
Yeah.
May God keep us faithful. May He fortify us. May we put on the whole armor of God. And may we stand in defense of truth and righteousness against all the wiles of the devil. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, what a time to be living. It is not an easy time. It's not a convenient sofa to lie on. But it is a tumultuous time, a time of great interest, a time of final judgment. Lord, open hearts and minds that they may understand the issue, and bring the power of the Holy Spirit into the message, because words by themselves can convince no one. Without the convicting power of the Spirit, we might be preaching in vain. So Lord, pour out your Spirit according to your promise in the latter rain. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.